Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. It's Friday, so we have a KSA, and this week we're joined by Casey. Hi, Casey.
Hello.
This is the first KSA for you in a bit, right? It's been since all the vampire craziness. But we have several questions. And the first one, Darren asks to me, how long have I had the Kael reveal waiting in the wings?
This was such a good question because I'm also curious to know.
Not super long, actually. I'd been kind of sitting down and sketching out character arc things and trying to work out what are the individual character storylines that are going on right now, and how do I see them proceeding? What can I add to that? And I realized that while Shade's thing with Hirazi is still there, Shade didn't really have something that was ongoing. She was kind of a participant in everybody else's, which is fine. But so I was trying to think of what is the active thing in Shade's story, and I realized we hadn't really explored much about where Kael came from, or what exactly Kael was. And so I started trying to think of how to explore that some more. Plus, animal companions, even the beefed up version of an animal companion that Kael is, tend to be, a little bit on the weak side. And so I was thinking, and don't level up the way some things do. Like with a paladin, paladins get access to a spell called Find Mount. And when they first get the spell, they can summon a horse or an elk or something like that, just something to ride. But then when you get to be a high-level paladin, you get access to a spell called Find Superior Steed or something like that, at which point you can summon like a direwolf or a griffin or something crazy like that. And I've always kind of felt like that should be something with an animal companion. It's not really in any system I've ever seen. And it's a little bit tricky because you don't want to present it where the ranger like ditches their animal companion to get a better one.
Right. Oh, that'd be so awful.
That's awful. Then it really would be Pokemon. But it's always felt like the animal companion should also level up in a more meaningful way than just getting more hit points, just the numbers gradually increasing. That the animal companion should in some way evolve with the ranger. And there are a lot of ways I've thought of that you could probably make that happen. But since you had a Feywild animal, I was like, well, something wild could happen with a Feywild animal. And I thought wings would be cool. Flying mount would be awesome. Flying animal companion, all sorts of fun things you could do there.
Flying panther is very cool.
Yeah. And so then I started trying to find what is a flying panther called, because winged panther just sounded boring. And as it turns out, there's not much in mythology to describe it, other than it's kind of a griffin, but there's not the rest of usually a griffin's like a bird's head and stuff like that. And it's kind of a sphinx, but Kael doesn't have any human qualities really. So it was, and I found an RPG supplement that described it as a felidont, but I couldn't find like an origin for that other than that RPG supplement. So I assumed that was a word they invented to come up with one. And then I landed on a word in it's a Turkic language, but a Central Asian language, but I can't remember which language. Akbars, AQ space BARS, and it just means it means snow leopard. But the animal itself is on the heraldry of a region in Russia and a bunch of other tribal areas in Central Asia, and it's a winged snow leopard. Like it's a snow leopard with eagle wings. And so I was like, okay, that's what we're landing on for the name. And so that's how the name came about. But yeah, there's a remarkable lack of terms for just like a winged big cat in mythology. But
they were just too powerful already. They didn't need more.
Right. Yes. Didn't need an awesome name. It would just be too much. And hopefully HeroForge will give me a big cat to play with soon so that I can make Kael. Since I've got access to both a frog and a toad and a goose and a duck, maybe a panther. You hear me, guys? Come on, HeroForge.
Although I had not considered a goose companion.
Right?
Those things
had
are
you
ferocious,
considered
man.
a giant I saw a meme one time where someone was talking about, with paleontologists realizing that so many dinosaurs probably had feathers on the outside of them. It really makes you wonder: have we been considering the appearance of dragons wrong? And so he took a picture of a dragon destroying a town, and then just swapped it out, and it's just a giant goose. If you put feathers on a dragon, it's just a giant fire-breathing goose, which is pretty terrifying.
Yes. If they could, I imagine geese would attempt to destroy towns.
Yes, geese are unpleasant creatures.
I have a horrible fear of them, and so
they chase you. Like, I don't get it. They're aggressive.
I have been attacked multiple times by geese.
My sister's afraid of all birds. She was chased by peacocks at a zoo one time, and has never forgiven the entire field of zoology. So
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So not super long. I don't remember exactly when I decided to do it, but it was also a nice way to trying to find a way to introduce that was kind of tricky, having not like planned it out carefully over a long time. But Mrs. Bright Doom's background with House Vatalis, she found it in a book. She found Kael in a book. There we go. So,
and it is always a wonderful thing to have a Mrs. Bright Doom appearance.
We hadn't in a while. Mrs. Bright Doom had not been around in a while, so it was good to. It was funny. We got asked a while back, like, what storyline or character or something like that are you missing? And now I've been working them all back into the story a little bit at a time. So, Mia asked, were you, Casey, expecting the conversation with Mrs. Bright Doom? Do you ever get nervous when the spotlight is on you? And were you aware before this show just how stinking funny you are?
I was not expecting the conversation with Mrs. Bright Doom. In fact, there's that moment where you said, Shade hears someone, and like she was ready to pounce, attack. It was definitely not Mrs. B, I was thinking, was coming up the stairs. And I also didn't anticipate that Shade would have all of those fears and conversations expressed through that conversation with Mrs. B. I was pleasantly surprised at that opportunity. I had been, I don't know. It's so hard to know whether to explicitly state what a character is struggling with or just drop it in throughout. And so it's interesting. It was interesting to see the reaction to that conversation because I thought I had done it too heavy-handedly. It's not the word I was looking for, but I thought I was too heavy-handed in, oh, here's all of my inner monologue for Shade, and now she'll just take this moment to express it at Mrs. B. But you are a very conscientious GM, and so there was the moment where I was like, oh, too much me time. There's the question of, do I get uncomfortable in the spotlight? Yes. I was like 100%. I was worried that I was lingering in that conversation too long, especially with all of these other big reveals and big situations that the other characters are going through. Was worried, but you had her continue the questioning, and so I took that as a green light that it was okay to continue that conversation and linger in those moments a little bit. So I was excited for the opportunity to express it, but also, yes, a little bit uncomfortable.
I liked that conversation because ever since Shade got the very dark definition of friendship from the Moon Spears, she keeps saying that, and no one in the party, her dearest friends have gone, Shade, it might not be exactly all that friendship is. And so it was fun to be able to have that conversation with Mrs. B, because obviously Mrs. B is going to have a very different, more traditional friendship concept.
Healthier. It's not like Shade's closest friends are the definitions of healthy either.
True. And also I kind of wanted a character to push back on Shade's insistence that everything has become her fault. And I mean the player characters have to a certain extent, Ari in particular, but I wanted also there to be someone to say, you are not actually responsible for everything bad that happens to your friends. It's not all on you as it happens.
Well, and I think
so I enjoyed that. Yeah,
I think Shade's more able to hear it from Mrs. Brightdoom than she is from her own friends. She is confident that her friends are going to tell her whatever they think would make her feel better.
Right.
Where Mrs. Brightdoom doesn't have that relationship with Shade. She just, bestows wisdom as she passes through.
I very much enjoyed being in the watch party for this one, partly because I got complimented on my female characters, and I was like, oh, yay.
You do create great NPCs. I am absolutely with the watch party on this. Like, we'll just have an episode in which they all sit down at dinner together and converse. That should be super easy for you, right? Yeah.
Sure. Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. I like all my NPCs and I really enjoy creating NPCs, but trying to talk between the NPCs is, it feels very intimidating. And it's like, it feels a little bit strange how intimidating that feels, because if you think about, my earliest play make believe as a kid, and you've got your toys, and you totally have them talk to each other. Like it's not
true,
weird at all, right? You got your little your dolls, your action figures, whatever, and they have conversations, and you play both characters, and that's not in the least bit strange. But something about it, and not even just the recording, because I'm absolutely feel the same way at when I'm at the table. The idea of having a conversation with myself. I don't know if it's being in front of people or what, but it's extremely intimidating. I don't know how to do it well.
I can't imagine doing it. Like, I imagine that's, yes, understandable. Well, you're very good at it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, her last question was, and I don't know if that was a sincere question or not, about whether or not I find myself funny. But I think I have I consider, words are hard.
True.
I think of myself as having a good sense of humor. I don't know if I would describe myself as funny, though. I think that I can, my brand of sense of humor outside of my characters is probably like snide remarks. I think I do those fairly well.
Yeah. Emily asks, how long would Shade be willing to be away from the school and in Thelanis with Kael in order to get Cal's wings?
This is a great question, because I don't know.
Well, and you couldn't know how long you would be away.
Right. So many complications to that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely has crossed my mind since finding out about the possibility of Cal's wings, and if he wants to go, absolutely we will go on that journey. But certain things would have to line up for her to feel comfortable doing that. Whether that's their crew going with them, or staying to watch over the school with the understanding that we'll communicate in some way. But no, just the idea of her and Kael going on an adventure in the Feywild makes her very nervous. But she would do it for Kael.
So there's not a part of Shade that like just thinks moving to the Feywild and living there is a good idea?
Oof. Not in leaving the strike force.
Mm-hmm.
If she ever grows in her understanding of friendship, and that like you can maintain relationships across distances, maybe, but she has no concept of that.
That's understandable.
Ooh, that complicates it. If she leaves, will they still be her friends when she comes back?
Do they have object permanence problems?
Right.
Laura inquires, how far does Shade's pass-fail system for people take her in regard to their actions? And I requested and got clarification. What they mean is, how far can someone go before Shade moves them from a yes to a no?
Ooh.
This is asked in the context of Demise. Although I don't know if Demise was ever a yes.
Demise was in holding. She was a yes because Ezri said so. But that transition is definitely, if I were to quantify it for Shade, and I'm not sure I have mentally, so this will be me processing on camera. Does she endanger Shade? I guess, do they endanger Shade? So not Demise specifically, but are they endangering Shade's life? Would pretty quickly put them in the no category. And are they endangering her companion's life? And then from there, it would be as she's trying to figure out morality. You know, she's got some pretty, oh, this I know is crossing a line. And so for Demise, that was it. Okay, no. Rampant violence against innocent civilians on a train. I know what Ari would say. And so that would move it to the no category. And so I think that I was going to say there's a lot of wiggle room, but there's not a lot of wiggle room. It's a pretty specific list. Are we being endangered? Are you a bad person as far as Shade understands what bad to be?
Mm-hmm.
I think in general, it's probably just much harder to make the yes categories for her.
Yeah. Laura also asks, Shade puts a lot of responsibility on herself for the bad things that happen to her friends. How does she feel about Ari getting vampire possessed when she and Pog split the party?
So bad. She feels so bad about it. I don't think she specifically associates the splitting the party with the event.
Right.
So I don't think the outcome will be she'll never split the party, but
right.
Definitely some weight of Ari was away, Ari wasn't being protected by her. Yes, she can just absolutely trace everything back to being her fault, which I know is a problem. I understand. I'm not trying to play that as Shade's growth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's funny.
But yes, she definitely, for so long it has been survival. And now that her survival has been maintained successfully with the same group of people who have seemingly won't break their promise and abandon her, which has been her standard up until now navigating what that looks like when you're in a long-term relationship with friends, family. She doesn't know what that looks like, and she doesn't know what keeping someone in her life looks like. And so it's so easy for her to take on the responsibility and the weight of everything because her perception is if she can do everything right, they will stay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And obviously has no concept of what right is, hence the very lovely conversation with Mrs. B.
First of many, hopefully.
Yes. Her
Mrs.
now
B
regular
can move
meeting
to the
with her
school
therapist.
and become the counselor. Become the guidance counselor for the school.
Or they bring her in for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's mandatory staff meetings with her.
Absolutely. Last question, also from Laura. Who on the show do you think would make the best vampire?
I think Ari made a pretty killer vampire.
Ari's a terrifying vampire. He's got all the persuasion and deception stuff and the mental control. Ari would be an extremely successful vampire.
Yeah. Yes. Of the party, I think Ari is and would be a fantastic vampire.
Ezri would be the least unhappy about being a vampire. Like I can see Ari getting some Interview with a Vampire style self-loathing going on. But I don't think Ezri would.
Yeah, I think he would be fairly content with that transition.
Oh man. Well, that is all of our questions. Remind everyone that we have our dice bag giveaway going on. This wonderful dice bag that will appear somewhere in the screen, maybe over there right by my hands. Ooh, yes. You can enter to win that dice bag created by none other than Laura of Lazy Fox Creates by tweeting at us over at Laughing Tree Inn on Twitter and send us a picture of an awesome set of dice that you own or that you don't own. I don't care. And at the end of our giveaway, we will draw from those who have done so and send that dice bag your way. So don't forget to enter. In the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. This has been Khyber Shards. You can get in touch with us at all the links down below. New episodes of Khyber Shards drop every Monday. New Khyber Shards answers every Friday. And until next time, thanks for rolling with us.